Okay, I'd like to call the Leominster Planning Board to order, November 18th, 2019, from 6:30. Okay, just make a note of the Leominster Planning Board, the Board of Permitted Uses. Okay, also another note that Tom has missed the last meeting, has written, fill out the proper paperwork and observe the meeting on TV. And the same thing with Paul. So they're both eligible to vote this evening. Okay. Open the first open public meeting for 391 Pleasant Street for site plan approval. I have representatives here. Okay. This way, Tom, or you want to go that way? This way, Carol.
So my name is Steve Cochran. I'm the homeowner at 391 Pleasant, and coincidentally, I'm also a solar engineer for a design company in Harvard, Massachusetts. I've actually been on the other side of this planning board table multiple times, helping folks like yourself review large multi-megawatt scale systems. So. This proposed plan is for a 16-panel ground mount system on the westernmost part of the property. It started as a rooftop system, and then after further investigation, found that I couldn't really do a rooftop system. It wasn't going to be very feasible. The roof faces due west. It's shaded by a large tree, and the structure itself just wasn't acceptable really to host it on there. So I'm moving it to the ground and trying to do it in the most unobtrusive way possible. I've engaged a foundation company out of Worcester who manufacture and install the helical screw pile foundations that don't require an excavator on site to dig massive sonotubes. That's in an effort, one, to reduce the amount of soil disturbance, the amount of runoff, etc. And so I've applied for interconnection approval with local utility and National Grid and received that, and I've applied to the Massachusetts incentive program for solar and have that approval as well. And then going through this process right here to get planning board approval and a permit to build. Let's see, where do we start? Understanding that the zoning plans or the zoning requirements for solar are directed towards the large commercial ground mount systems. I've seen it in the past. Requirements for access roads, requirement for site fences, access, insurance requirements, etc. So I am going to be requesting some variances from waivers from a select few of those requirements. That Elizabeth has helped me navigate that process. So. I did get the request to turn off a new site map, which the tie and bond GIS system on the town's website turned off 11 by 17. So
okay, that's fine.
Hopefully that's acceptable. I don't know if I can pass these around.
Yeah, pass those out. Definitely.
Sure. What's that? It's 300 feet. Yeah, it's about an acre and a quarter. Or sorry, acre and a half almost. Yeah, pretty good. There's obviously the existing tree line here. Obviously that screens from the south property, and existing tree line here from the north property, and then there's another pretty heavy pine tree line right there, and This property's house is over up in that corner. That we have detailed in the adjacent parcels plan here.
Okay, well, yeah, I want to flip it and you
Yeah.
can show that.
Tried my best to comply with all of the site plan dimension requirements and adjacent parcels within 300 feet, outlining what's where, lot dimensions. There is a wetland on this western parcel right here, outlined for the GIS system, but just over 300 feet away from it. So I'm hoping that will be of concern. I believe the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction starts at 100 feet.
100 feet.
Yeah, so that was the hope there. Another cluttered map showing the adjacent parcels to the south within 300 feet, along with all of the lot dimensions as well, and property numbers called out. This plan shows the proposed location of the array with respect to all the existing pieces of facilities. So neighbors on this adjacent parcel, neighbors on my north adjacent parcel are putting an equipment shed, and the existing residence, and then same thing for the south parcel, the existing residence with the attached garage, and there's actually an outbuilding buried in these trees right here. And I did approximate a location for a temporary access road for it. Realistically, this system doesn't require a permanent access road. The only piece of heavy equipment that's going to be coming into, well, that's not heavy equipment, it's a tiny bobcat that's the piece of instrument, the equipment that drives the posts. Existing overhead utility lines, that was another requirement of the site plan application. And plan application outlines a requirement or a request to, I guess, detail the existing visual screens that are on site. So we have, again, our proposed solar array over here. We have a pretty well-established tree line here of maples screening the northern property. A pretty heavy tree line of oaks screening the southern property, and then pine trees and buckthorn sumac on the west side of the property. Again, the temporary access road not to be paved. I'm not proposing any impervious surfaces here that would affect soil drainage or runoff. And then a few images from the actual street that attempt to show where it would be. It's going to be difficult to see from the street because of the existing tree lines, but there's a little box called out here. This is as you're pulling on the Pleasant Street from Sylvan. My neighbor's driveway over here, my house, and then the proposed array location way in the backyard there. Similar from traveling north on Pleasant Street, there's a little box called out that shows the potential array location, the anticipated array location in the backyard.
Okay. Yeah, just a minute. I want to open up the 635 public hearing for 391 Pleasant Street for special permit approval for use. Okay, let's open. Continue.
Sure. This is an example of what the array will likely look like. This is a system that I actually built for my company up in Boxford, Massachusetts. It is larger, but it's analogous in the construction of it. My array is going to be 3 modules high. This one is 4 high, and mine will be 6 wide, and I believe this one's 9 wide. And there's some additional images. This one's actually from, can I circulate these? Sure. This one is actually from Post Tech, the company in Worcester, to give an example of what the actual screw piles look like. You can see the amount of, or the lack of soil disturbance, and that was the general idea. And then this is actually a picture of the structure on this sample array up in Boxford to show the aluminum and steel mounting system. One of the observations I made in the solar zoning ordinance was the requirement for an 8-foot tall wooden stockade fence to provide site security and unauthorized access. And additionally, in the zoning requirements, there was the goal of maintaining the, what they call the architectural characteristic of the existing neighborhood. And so in an attempt to comply with that requirement, I'm also requesting a waiver from the 8-foot tall wooden fence. I don't believe my neighbors would appreciate it very much to see a giant wooden wall in the backyard. So in the spirit of complying with that requirement, but also providing security to the site, the National Electric Code allows the the requirement of the National Electric Code is that the connections at the array be secured from tampering and they're tamper resistant, essentially. So what we have done and what I've proposed in the past on systems is securing the vinyl coated hardware cloth to the rear of the racking structure, and that prevents unauthorized access to the actual connectors that are on the back side of the panels. This is a top-down view and a side profile of the racking structure. It's all dimensioned out. It's about 30 feet east-west and 7'6" pier spacing north-south. And total overall height, we're at 6'3", or sorry, 6'3"3/4". So we're coming in lower than the 8-foot total requirement from grade. 25-degree tilt angle, and again, the racking structure is going to be extraordinarily similar to that image that is being distributed.
Okay. And then last is just my single-line electrical diagram in case anybody has a mind for that sort of thing. Yeah, showing the string sizing, the inverter sizing, and the method of interconnection to the existing. the inverter is going to be in the home?
The inverter will be in the basement, yep.
In the basement?
Yep.
Okay.
So there will be no user serviceable pieces of equipment outside. The inverter will not be outside. There will be a meter and a disconnect that are both required by the utility.
Right.
They will both be locked. The enclosures will be locked and prevent be tamper-proof. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll open up to the audience. So I have anyone in the audience that wishes to comment? Yes, sir.
Yep, I just have a...
Please identify yourself.
John Bolger, 365 Pleasant. I just wanted to, the size of that isn't very big. What did you say, 30 by...
Yeah, it's 30 by about 7.5. It's 16 total panels, or the rack is going to accept 16 total panels.
I mean, personally, I think it's a great idea. He's lived there for what, more than that?
Yeah, more than that now. 5 years in this December, I think.
Time goes by fast. But I can say he's always taken very well care of the property and been very respectful for everybody there. And I think pretty much whatever he does is going to be, done in a respectful manner. And I think it's a great idea. Of course, you are going to supply the neighbors with electricity too.
Yeah, realistically, any electricity that's produced when I'm not consuming it flows back onto the grid for everybody else to use.
Okay. Do I have any other comments from the audience? I'll ask you again, do I have any other comments from the audience? Third and final time. Do I have any questions or comments from the audience? From the board members?
That's good. There were no department head comments.
Yeah.
Okay, Carol?
Yeah, what Paul said, there aren't any comments other than conservation wasn't certain if they had jurisdiction.
I can provide a little more information on that. I think what conservation is trying to say, Chair, is that there is a GIS layer that shows wetlands, and that's what was used, and it's not a certified wetland mapping.
300 feet away.
What?
Isn't it 300 feet away?
It's not determined where the wetland truly is what she's saying. That the information used is not the accurate layer.
Yeah.
So the wetland.
There are basically no comments from the different departments.
Except.
And then he's looking for the
Some waivers,
planning director's listed
right?
5, there's actually 5 waivers, right? Well, then he also, the access driveway.
The access road.
Does he really need to build it?
No, but drawing, it's on the, it's,
Yeah, wasn't that if you needed to?
no, he doesn't have to.
No, I don't have to, but understanding that the ordinance was written, or the
For large.
requirements were written for some large systems.
So it's in the ordinance, we really don't have a section in the ordinance
I would think.
for home-mounted units. Yeah, yeah.
Really don't want one.
No, so maybe we gotta come back and, do a change for, home zone, solar projects.
So does that have to be a
Residential.
waiver, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to waiver that because it's called out in the general ordinance. Okay, with that,
Make a motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion made and seconded to close the hearing. Do I have any further discussion? Here none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion
I
carries.
make a motion to close the hearing on the special permit for use.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to close the public hearing for use. Any discussion? Here none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
We'll fall down like that.
Okay.
We'll address this later on in the meeting.
Pretty soon.
Pretty soon. Won't be too long. I hope.
I should hang around then?
Yeah. 6:40, okay, open the continued public hearing. The definitive subdivision approval for Meadowlands at Willard Street, along northerly side of Willard Street, including 671 Willard Street. I have at the last meeting, there was an issue brought up concerning participation at the meeting. So we went forward and request from the city solicitor, KP Law, okay? And it reads, Elizabeth, you have requested an opinion regarding the attached question whether a planning board member that misses multiple sessions of a subdivision plan hearing is prohibited from all participation in the hearing and deliberations, or only from voting on the decision. In my opinion, such as a member, including the chair, is not prohibited from participating in current hearings and the board's decisions, but rather is only prohibited from voting on the decision. I can read this, there's a lengthy thing, but he did an appeals court, Mullen versus Planning Board in Brewster, plus McKelvey and Planning Board in Nantucket, and several others that he researched, that they came up with the same conclusion. So for that, I will continue running the meeting. Okay?
Did we get a request to not do this?
What's that?
Did we get a request to postpone this?
No, that's been, there was some issue, we thought we were gonna postpone it, because Tom had had an operation, and he wasn't sure whether he could make it today or not. He is here, as you can see, and Sal is not. We have the required members for a quorum. Okay? Any questions in that regard? Okay, you're up.
For the record, Chris Anderson, Handy Engineering, here on behalf of Crown Eagle LLC for our definitive subdivision plan. We've been before the board several times over the last couple of months. Just to recap where we're at right now, it's proposing a 27-lot subdivision off of Willard Street. There's been several concerns raised by both the board and the abutters relative to the location of the entrance along Willard Street. During the previous hearing, we did go into depth regarding the design alternatives that were performed in-house prior to the submittal of the actual subdivision road, showing all the possible alternatives, such as moving it closer to Crabtree Lane to allow for a more of an offset away from the abutting properties, but due to specific concerns relative to grading issues on the site. It's very difficult to almost impossible to create a safe road that's compliant with the AASHTO standards, which is a standard roadway design criteria that's issued by pretty much everywhere. So we went into depth regarding that. As an alternative, we are proposing to widen Willard Street. During several site walks and from information provided by the abutters, there is an existing large 45-inch tree that's located within the right-of-way of the road that creates a pinch point along Willard Street. At that location, the width of the roadway becomes approximately 18 feet wide. As such, you can't really get a school bus or a large vehicle through with another car passing in the direction. We have reviewed this area with the DPW, and they mimic our opinion that the widening of the roadway is probably the best alternative to provide for the project rather than relocating the road. DPW has did review the alternative plans, and they do not encourage the offset reduction because it creates an unsafe turning maneuver area between Crabtree Lane along Willard Street. They are in favor of removing those several large trees that are in the area and widening that road. As part of this widening of the roadway will essentially become 24 feet wide, creating a better traffic flow and allow for vehicles to move freely around one another. That's where we left it off during the previous hearing. If there's any questions from the board, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, I think we're pretty much covered in that base.
Just quickly, how long is the stretch of roughly 24 feet after you?
It's going to be approximately a little under 300 feet. It's all the way to essentially the extension of Technology Drive along Willard Street. So as you're coming through, there's a... Yep. So we'll just switch boards for you. So it would be approximately 300 feet long from the center line of the roadway to essentially Technology Drive, which is the current driveway to the cell tower that's located on the property.
And the road widens out at that point going to Crabtree, correct?
Not all the way to Crabtree. As you come across the intersection of the roadway expands itself naturally to be greater than 24 feet. So this area along between this intersection of the roadway to Crabtree Lane will remain largely untouched. There'll be some widening by default because of the access curb radii coming into the roadway. Beyond that, there's not going
But
to be...
that's already wider than 24.
That's already wider than 24 feet.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else you wish to add?
At this point, no.
Okay. I'll open it up to the audience, so I have some questions from the audience.
Hi, Philip Truex.
Yes, sir.
653 Willard Street. Chris, you had the original one up? Could I see that, please? Now, it was brought up about the buffer zone prior. Does that map include the buffer zone for the site and noise?
Yes. That was brought up during one of the previous hearings.
Okay.
Because of the general nature of that vegetation, there's not much large vegetation in that area.
Okay.
As part of the general construction of the house and everything like that, it might be, that buffer might get encroached upon. So the notes have been added to the plan to provide infill arborvitae plantings within that 20-foot buffer. That will be determined prior.
But it is on the plan. That's my main.
It is on the plan.
Okay, perfect. That's and who's responsible for maintaining it? Is that a homeowner? Is that the homeowners association? Where is that covered?
It's going to be primarily on the homeowner and the homeowners association. Part of the vegetation management will be part of that.
Okay. That's really the main first question I had. Second question I had was regarding the road. I know that the subdivision regulations were given a waiver because it requires, anything over 12 requires more than one. Is that part of the reason that the road can't be moved and that it can't be approved by AASHTO and all these other things and has crazy curves, is because it got too many houses, or is that something that would be there regardless of the number of houses that are in there?
That goes more into the preliminary subdivision plan. So we are able to provide the 2 roadway accesses, but it is by right we are able to do so. But if it creates too many turning maneuvers along Willard Street.
I'm not specifically talking about having two. I understand why you come to this.
Yeah.
I'm talking about where specifically the entryway is placed. Is that impacted by the number of houses over that minimum?
No, we're able to maintain the same number of lots regardless of our configuration. The issue becomes that we can't get the grading to work through the area because you have to have so much feet of a leveling area approaching an intersection. Mm-hmm. You have to have certain algebraic curves along the center line of the road to allow for a safe transition of the vehicle from a certain grade to another. Otherwise, it's essentially almost like a bike ramp shooting a car.
So why couldn't that be done if there were lots taken out and grades raised and filled and what have you?
As you move that road closer, you're actually siding the grade. We went through this during the previous hearing. But as you move that grade, we have to maintain certain grades that are acceptable for vehicle travel.
Gotcha.
And we also have concerns over the National Grid easement that's on the property, which provides an additional constraint within the subdivision, unfortunately. And as you start doing the grading in this area, as you move that road closer, you lose the ability to, quote-unquote, hide that grade change.
Okay.
So as we move that closer, you start filling more within the National Grid, and they won't allow that because it impedes upon their ability to get to the actual utility poles within the easement. We can make that work, but again, the roadway becomes to a design standard that is unbuildable, unsafe, and as an engineer, we can't approve or endorse a plan that would actually be built like that.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Andrews. I live at 677 Willard Street. Are you still proposing the emergency road?
Yes.
And it's going to be gated?
There will be 2 security gates on either end of the road.
And from my understanding, the DPW is not going to be plowing that?
Correct.
Then it doesn't make sense that it's an emergency road. We can't use it through the winter months. Why have it?
Making the assumption it's going to snow.
It hasn't. For 5 months of the year,
That's a fair question.
You have that road completely inaccessible to any kind of emergency equipment. Because
But
the
we could-
DPW is not going, sorry, John.
Okay.
DPW, I've already checked in with them, they're not gonna maintain it. Why have it?
We could, if we wanted to make that a condition on the homeowners association that they plow that. That wouldn't be a problem.
Well, it wouldn't be emergency accident, but you have
No,
no access.
what I'm saying is if,
Right,
we
I
can
hear
make
you.
a condition in there is a homeowners association. Yeah, we know the DPW is not gonna do it because it's not gonna be an accepted road, but it's a road owned by the homeowners association.
Right.
It's going to be a
We-
paved road. They plow plenty of.
It's not gonna be paved,
They
yeah.
plow plenty of roads that aren't accepted.
Yeah, I know. That's,
Not paved,
no,
not paved.
so in this case, we could make that a condition on the homeowners association part of their management plan, that they pave that, that they plow it.
Yeah, and I wanna bring up one.
That's a
other-
possibility.
Yeah, okay, now I want to bring up another issue about the school busing. There's people here that are residents there that have children that get on the bus. In the winter months, no kids can stand on any part of that street. They're in their parents' cars waiting for the bus to be picked them up. Because the plows totally plow, when they plow the road, they plow everything onto the sidewalk that's existing already. So, we mentioned you about having a crosswalk across the street to where you're gonna talk to the school bus to have a local area that pick them up. Where are you gonna park all those cars with kids from Crabtree or other places? Right today, they all sit in their parents' cars until the bus comes in the winter months and when it rains. You're not gonna have any room for them anywhere during the winter months.
Maybe a bus stop within
There are some intersections with sidewalks and everything like that, that the people can stand waiting for the bus, but
There are sidewalks in the subdivision.
there's sidewalks in the subdivision, and there's a sidewalk that extends all the way up to the right of way of
Willard Street.
Willard Street. Relative to cars parking on the road's not intended to be a parking lot, so again, that's more of a, in my opinion, enforcement issue rather than a site design.
No, I'm just saying the way it is today.
Yeah. Nope, I completely
And
understand.
back a couple meetings ago, you suggested that you're gonna put a nice beautiful crosswalk, connect your crosswalk to the sidewalk that's going along the road to Crabtree. That sidewalk don't even get used in the winter, because you can't.
Well, that's pretty much the same in
Any
all
city.
over the city.
But I'm just talking, if, 27 houses, more kids,
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have a
Maybe
report.
they'll put a bus stop.
Yeah, we could ask the homeowners that they have a bus stop, a covered bus stop. There's land there on the corner, they could do that, but then the parents could drop off the kids and pick up the kids. But that's, I see that every night when I'm driving home in different places of the city. It's the same thing. And some are worse. I mean, there's one subdivision up near me, Bridle Cross, that doesn't have any sidewalks. Okay, and I see the kids get off the bus, and there's like 3 or 4 cars parked there on Bridle Cross waiting for the kids to get in. And I'm sure it happens. I see that one. That's one I saw the other day. So it happens all over the city. It's not something that I don't have an answer for, and it's not something that we address in our subdivision regulations. Okay. Now we can make a suggestion to the homeowners association. They can do a lot of things, but to build a small bus stop there or a shelter. That could be done. That could be requested. That's not a big deal. Okay, but other than people parking on this new road and parking on Crabtree, well, Crabtree already exists, so I don't have any input on that at all. But the new road, you get some houses, you might have, I don't know, might have 2 kids, you might have 25 kids. I have no idea what the count would be. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, thank you. Lisa Prophet, representing my sister Michaela and her husband Patrick, who live at 664 Willard. If I could, I'd just like to read a prepared statement that I have, please. The 45-inch tree that is in question is at Michaela's house. It's an ash tree. It's probably well over 100 years old. It probably does need to be trimmed. Maybe a limb or two was hit by a bus or a box truck or whatnot. Other than that, it does have new seedlings. The trunk is in good shape, and it is been looked at by an arborist who thinks that it can be saved, that it is not a dead tree. That being said, the proposed widening plan of Willard Road contains the destruction of a tree-lined street. This is totally unnecessary and unacceptable. The plan seeks to remove 7 trees along Willard Road, including quite possibly the oldest tree in Leominster, measuring 45 inches in diameter, located at 664 Willard Road. No amount of money can replace such a majestic tree. The City of Leominster is a gateway community that partners with the Department of Conservation and Recreation in a program called Greening the Gateway Cities Program. The program aims to increase tree canopy in Leominster, and the program is active in planting new trees around Leominster for the following reasons. It reduces summer cooling costs, reduces noise pollution by absorbing sounds, slowing down traffic, and improving quality of life. We are adamantly opposed to any trees being removed to accommodate a developer for a new subdivision. This plan directly impacts us and our property value. We as neighbors should not be forcibly affected by the proposed subdivision for any reason, especially when other solutions can be achieved. Further, the plan makes no effort to widen the road on the subdivision side of Willard Road, only to impact other neighboring property, not the subdivision. Ultimately, their proposed widening of the road will force drivers to swerve to avoid hitting an existing stone wall located at 640 Willard Road. The developer is seeking to fix a, quote, pinch point. The entire length of Willard Road is a pinch point, and widening a small stretch in front of 3 properties doesn't solve it. In our opinion, it creates more of a driving hazard with potential for head-on collisions into a stone wall that currently serves as a daycare center. At the October meeting, the engineer reviewed several options that could occur within the boundaries of the subdivision. Plan A that was presented would require the planning board to grant a grading waiver. We respectfully ask the board to explore this option in greater detail and not rush to widen a road which already has an area wider and safer than the current widening plan will ever be. We respectfully ask that the widening of Willard Road not be considered a safe solution. And I do have photos and packets for y'all if you'd like them now, if you'd like them later.
Okay. Please give that to our director, please.
picture of that tree you were talking about?
Yeah, that's a couple weeks back.
Where is that tree?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it.
This one here is the small pad.
No, that's not it.
That's us.
It's the one with the, yeah, that's the trunk. The leaves have already, it's an ash, so it leaves, its leaves are,
Over here.
yeah.
Is that on private property, the tree?
Nope, it's within, it's entirely located within the right of way of the road.
Where is you guys control the tree?
I think the first photo is of the large tree. So.
Yeah, no.
Which tree is it?
No.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong picture.
I think you, John, if you look at the 8.5 by 11s underneath.
Small pad.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Yeah, no, I didn't
So
see that.
that tree is the trunk. The trunk is in impeccable shape. There is one leader on it that was hit, but the tree itself is well over 100 years. And our concern is, you widen a road for a few hundred feet, and if you can see where that wall is, you're basically going to widen it, and you're going to create more of a swerve down the road. So is that really worth the time in doing all of this? For somebody not paying attention, you're going to drive them straight into the wall. And you can see how tight it is by that other car oncoming. Everybody rides the middle there because it's tight. So unless you want to widen the entire road, I just don't see this as a solution that makes any sense. Thank you for your attention.
Where's that tree located on?
Effectively across from the entranceway to the subdivision, slightly going towards town.
So that tree is located right here.
How is that tree not owned by, I don't understand. Oh,
It's right on the road.
It's right along the
It's
roadway.
right next to the road. The paved road, but within the right of way.
So the roadway itself is actually not centered within the right of way of Willard Street. It's actually favored more towards our side of the road rather than on the opposite side. So,
So they just went around the tree. Okay.
yes, they essentially just went around the tree.
The tree's already.
yeah, because the tree shouldn't come down. That's why they went around the tree.
Well, the limb has been hit, but the
Yes.
trunk itself has not
No,
been hit.
and the school bus every morning goes within 16 inches of the roof come by.
And so where that red line ends is where that wall begins. So you're cutting drivers over to eventually drive them into that wall, which is really foolish.
That's further down the street.
Walls in here, right?
Yeah.
So right at the end of the proposed widening plan, you've moved
Well, within
people.
the industrial park.
You've moved people over and driven them right into that wall.
Where is this in relation to that?
Right at the end,
You're standing right about
that's
here.
where,
So what's happening there is that photo shows the roadway doing a swerve
Right.
because of the natural existing right of way of the road, not because of anything else. That's how the road's currently bounded.
You're right.
Regardless of roadway, physical options,
Yep.
obstructions, whatever you want to call
But
it.
that's the point where you want to start lighting.
So, yes, so essentially what's going to happen is, currently there is a swerve that naturally forms from the roadway itself.
Right.
What will happen is that will be straightened out to allow
that's not,
coming
that's,
towards you.
that's not straightened out.
So if you're looking at it, you're going the opposite direction.
Okay.
So what's going to happen is that swerve that's currently there is going to be straightened out. That's
Not where the house is.
No, that's not true. That swerve is past Technology Drive.
well, there's also a natural swerve that
That's
occurs
not that photo. That photo is right after Technology Drive,
So this technology.
and that wall is right there.
No. Yes, that's definitely.
This is technology.
Yes.
So, what is where the red is? What is the proposed widening? How much wider is that road going to be than it is currently?
It's currently around 19 to 18 feet. There'll be 24 to 25 feet in certain locations. So it'll be a substantial increase, about 6 feet.
So you move people over traveling in a travel lane 6 feet over to then drive them into that wall a few yards up. It doesn't make sense. When you already have a wider area at Crabtree, and I
But
know
the problem is, we're not gonna go to Crabtree now.
Yeah.
We can't go, we've looked at the grades. The grades are very steep, okay? If we get into the leveling situation, it's not safe. The DPW has already told us we can't go there.
Yeah.
That they don't allow us because within 65 feet, okay? So we have a problem on that, okay? Now, we're trying to find the best solution. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
I'm looking for a solution that will work for everybody, okay? And we're gonna say the road where they're coming out is gonna stay.
Yep.
So now, how do we make that work, okay? Now, I agree, the tree, you know, is a proud tree, it's been there for a long time. But it is in the city, it is in the right-of-way of the road. And maybe it should have been taken care of 50 years ago by the city, but it wasn't, okay? So here I am, I'm in a situation where I'm trying to find a solution how we can make this work.
agreed.
And try to be on the positive side if I can.
I guess our opinion would be that if the road stays where it is and the road cannot move or you can't revisit the grading issues, we would prefer you to just leave the land the way that it is and leave the tree staying exactly as it is and not to intrude on other people's property to accommodate subdivision, because it's not right.
Well, that was done to accommodate the people in the neighborhood.
Well, it's
And that was the
development,
complaint,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
so
I
that's,
understand,
So that's why that would came up as an alternative,
Right.
okay? As I say, here's an alternative. Everybody complains about the width of Willard Street. Now, should the city have gone many years ago and widened the whole thing? Yeah, probably, okay? But it hasn't happened. As far as I know, it's not on the schedule to happen. So, I probably will never see it.
There's some houses.
And there's some houses that are very close to the right of way. So there are a whole bunch of issues that have to be dealt with here. So we're trying to deal with the issues the best we can to find the solution and widen them at the point. Now I did notice that, so the tree is on this side, on the opposite side of your entrance road, correct?
Correct.
So that's where it is in the right of way.
It's further.
I can see the right of way road there.
Yeah, it's further up. It's not directly across, but it.
Well, no, but I can see,
Yes.
as I'm looking at the drawings, if you look at the solid line on the bottom, that is the actual right-of-way of the width of the road, so that the 40 feet,
It's variable.
It's variable.
Old road, so.
it's an old road, so they go from, they're around 40 feet. So, but of that 40 feet, only 18 is paved. So that's where you get your inconsistency, and it happens all over the places where people plant trees, or trees are planted in the old cart path, and they grew up. So we're stuck with that now. How do I address it? I don't know.
We would just ask you to consider
Yeah.
that if everything being equal, leave the land the way that it is.
Okay.
If that's the solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John, if I may ask another question?
Yes, you may.
Do you happen to know what the grade is of Samoset Drive that's down the road?
No, I don't know, because it's,
I would be willing to bet that it's steeper than a proposed road where the emergency road is.
and that's conjecture. I can't speak to whatever the design
No,
engineer for
I-
that company did.
I'm only basing it because I live there, I know what the grade is, I've walked that land. If the emergency road, I bet you is less steep than Samoset Road is today.
I have no idea.
It was probably built when there was no regulations either.
Yeah.
Huh?
It was probably built before regulations, so.
It was probably built before you guys became a board, you mean?
No,
Before
before
the regulations.
probably before I was
Before
born.
the ordinance,
So.
before I was born, for sure.
Which one?
Samoset?
Somerset?
Samoset.
No, Somerset's been done since 2008.
He's talking about
What?
Castle.
Oh, you're talking about Castle Land.
Castle Land.
Oh, no, that is the grade. Castle Land, that grade is less than 8%. Okay, and it meets the code that
And
we
I'm saying
require.
that the field, the farm field, is the same grade. or less?
I
can't speak to what the other design engineers did. I have to stand by.
I don't know.
At this point,
I can't argue that point, okay? I can say is if you're talking about Castellan, you were saying Somerset, but you're talking about Castellan, okay? When we're talking about that road, okay, that road was approved by this board, I'm gonna say within 10 years,
Yes.
okay? And the subdivision regulations are the same, that they exist. We have not changed the grading requirements, so, okay? I don't remember waivering any of that, so I'm making, I believe it met the requirement at the time. Is it right at it? Does it, but it does meet the leveling aspects, and it does meet the less than 8% grade. Yes.
Just a question a bit further on that. So who's going to be paying for the road widening, if that does go through?
That would be the developer.
Has any consideration been given to sidewalks, anything like that, or is it just strictly the road to get?
At this point, it's just the road, okay? The sidewalk, I guess there is some a little bit of sidewalk off of Crabtree.
Yeah, the sidewalk does extend along
Okay.
property of Crabtree.
But again, you can't go to their side because you're outside of the right of way.
Yeah.
And then if you go the other side, we even go further into that side where the tree is. So,
Is there a possibility of maybe the town getting involved and actually putting in sidewalks?
Oh,
like a
that's-
public like, this would be the perfect opportunity if we're already going to be working on the road.
I agree, but it's not something that we can, I know, that I don't have any conjecture on that whatsoever.
And just to add a little bit of context to the tree and the wall, that wall's been hit more than once, and the person ran off. The tree, I have cleaned up debris off of that road more than once from trucks hitting it, so
Yeah.
it is definitely in the right of way.
Yeah, I've had people comment to me they've lost their mirrors on that tree because they get squeezed over to the side and they misjudge it and they catch the mirror on the side of their
I saw
truck.
a truck lose the entire top.
Okay, that's the branch coming off the top.
Yeah.
The entire top
Okay.
is gone.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's nice and it's a tree and sometimes, I don't know. It's a discussion we have to have.
Chair, did you see the comments from staff regarding the tree? There were two.
I was finishing with the audience before I get into the other comments. Okay, do I have anyone else? Yes.
I don't want to keep going over things we've already talked about, just trying to clear one thing. This is my grandson, and he asked you about the 20-foot buffer alongside his property line. That go the entire 20 feet of his property
Just
line?
along the perimeter of the project, yes.
It would what?
It would go along the perimeter of the project.
Yeah, the length of his.
Right.
Okay. And very important question, we've got to clear this up because after it all said and done 2 years ago, what was said, we'd like to know if it's in writing. Does he, who's responsible for those trees for maintenance? You said that landowner and maybe the association?
Yes.
Is that going to be in writing
Yes.
as a condition?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. And you're going to have a line, the 20-foot buffer on your map? Usually that's what other subdivisions do.
Yes.
And Mr. Andrews, does he get a 20-foot buffer? I think you requested it.
I'm only getting a 15-foot buffer, I think.
Along the emergency access drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing about the road, maybe I'm wrong, can you make widening on both sides equal, like 3 feet instead of 6?
Unfortunately, we cannot.
You cannot.
Because the road is not centered within the right way of Willard Street, when you're on the northern side of Willard Street, it's only about 5 feet off the right of way of the road. There's not enough space in there to adequately provide the widening and to help with the grading. On the opposite side, there's a substantial distance from the edge of the roadway to the right way of the road.
Okay.
So that's why it's being proposed over there. It also allows for proper grading, massaging
I
the
can't
land
do
to make
that.
it work.
Is there any way, it's very important for this abutter, I think everybody's been pretty good. I gotta say, the board's been great. The people haven't objected to this plan as much, they just asked for little variations. So this is the 11th hour, we didn't know you wouldn't move the road for quite a while, so we didn't know. So now, all of a sudden, those two things are rejected. So it's the things we're trying to tighten up is how can we best serve what these people can deserve. Now, I had a friend of mine he's not an arborist, he's got a master's in forestry. He went out and said the tree's still alive, it's in good condition, it has no leaves on it, but ashes usually don't at this time of year. The branch got hit. You can see where it got hit by a truck and possibly the bus. The branch sticks out, causes the problem. Is there any way, and there's some holes in some of the trees, the major part of the trees would just have to be cut off, it'd be a trimming. Is there any way that you consider saving that tree, even if you widen that side?
I think the problem is that tree is it's in the right of way. It's the whole tree is in the right of way.
Well, actually,
It's in the road.
it is, but actually, the branch, it's even.
Oh, the branch, I'm well aware of the branch.
It would stop the bus of the trucks. And
Oh, yeah. If anything, the branch has to be trimmed, okay?
All I'm saying, you're exactly right, and maybe if that could be done, also, you're taking down a lot out of the trees for this project. So, just a consideration. Everybody's been good on this project. No one's really been complaining that much. It's just been on hold for quite a while.
Right.
And he wants, they want their buffer zone, they want it in writing, but the buffer zone protection.
Yeah, I believe the buffer zone it's on the drawing. We had discussed that at the previous meeting. It would be there, and I believe they did put it on.
Well, yeah, okay, so it's for sure.
That's right.
Okay. Now, that's a good question. Who's responsible, the homeowner or the association for maintenance? Because that buffer zone is
We
supposed
always
to stay up.
discuss that. I mean, I would assume it's the homeowner.
The homeowner, right, the immediate, but
Some
some of that's to be determined just how far the homeowners association. They're gonna be responsible for anything off the road. They're gonna be responsible for the drainage. They're gonna be responsible for the detention pond, the retention pond.
Right.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things that they're responsible for, okay? Typically, with that property, that buffer zone it's on the drawing. It will be so noted when you get a deed, okay, that there's a deed and there's a buffer zone, usually it's noted.
Right.
Okay, and so that's how it's controlled. It's controlled, via the deed. Okay, and that's how it's been done for years.
Okay.
Over a number of areas. Okay,
Okay.
so that's how it's been done.
Right.
Does it always work? No.
No.
But in majority of times it does.
I've seen a couple subdivisions, this shows a 20-foot buffer, and it's still leading with a 20-foot.
Oh,
This is side, what's important is for noise and
well, sure.
visibility.
I know of a number of houses not too far from me. There's a home. Their lot goes 110 feet deep, but they got a lawn that goes at least 250 feet deep.
Right.
So they're on city property.
Right.
I guarantee it was open property behind them, but they cut all the trees
Right.
and they made a nice backyard.
Right.
Okay, and nobody's okay, it's there, but that's what happens. And
Well, let's say 2 years from now, the homeowner decides to enlarge his back room, the back of the house and cuts it down. Who's responsible for the maintenance?
the homeowner,
The homeowner.
that's right.
Okay, so,
I don't have any jurisdiction at that point.
yeah, so here.
All we can do is it's on,
He'd have to
it's,
sue the homeowner?
yeah,
That's the way it goes?
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Bottom line,
Yeah,
I'd love to see these people protected. I think if you cut that, I think if experts from the city come up and look at that tree once more, they can say, listen, we could just cut that branch, and that's where it's got hit. As far as trees, cars driving in the trees, people drive in the trees all the time. It's not necessarily, they're just pulling over and not paying attention, but the branch is the main thing that got hit by trucks and a bus. You cut it off, it will even out the road, and if you can go down and widen it the way you want to the rest of the road. It is a problem though, because I've driven it, and when you get down to that stone wall, you go, oh, you got a curve. You're making a bigger curve. That's all, and that's correct. That is definitely correct. With that, I think the board acted very nice. You were very good to the engineer. You gave excesses houses way over the limit, and we've been good. We haven't complained about it. So 'Cause I hope you can make up some good decisions.
Okay.
Do you need your name for the record, sir?
Peter Latches.
Okay. Just to let you know, is, like I said, this is a board of permitted uses. We have a situation in Leominster. We have very little land left that people can build homes on. The growth of the city is determined that we can bring new people in and new jobs. We've had a number of companies come to this city, said, we'd love to come here. You don't have the housing. Okay? I've been involved in a number of different issues like that. So we have to continue. So we work hard. All the easy spots are gone. Okay? There might be one or two individual lots here and there, but anything where you're going to build 5 or 10 or 20 or multiple housing projects, it just doesn't exist anymore in the city. So we have to be a little more creative. And so that's where we are. We try to make something work because in the long run it helps everybody. Okay, it helps you, it helps your neighbors, it brings new people into the city, and the city continues to be a place where people want to live. So we try to find a happy medium someplace. So that's where we stand.
And why don't we change the zoning law and have them double up on the houses, John?
That's up to the city council. We've had before. If you go over to, I want to say Sylvan and there's a lot of those, if you went back 20, 35, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, house lots was 6,000 square feet for a residential A.
You're getting off topic.
So we're off topic, so we're going to move on.
Move on.
Okay, do I have any other comments on the,
Yeah, I got a question.
you go ahead.
Bob Lugoy, with the widening of the road, you're going to create more surface area for drainage. Is this going to be a natural drainage, or are you going to take and put in some sort of...
It would remain to be gutter flow.
Gutter flow? And where does that gutter flow intend to go? I mean, you're just going to...
To follow the existing drainage pattern of the road.
Yeah.
But if you're changing the road pattern, you're going to change that. And you're going to create a source of puddling and maybe a number of things. You're creating a source of where you're going to have a drainage problem. I'd like to know where that drainage would go, because if it goes in certain areas, that may not be great.
Well, before they do anything, it has to be approved by the DPW.
This still has to go through DPW. We have had conversations with them. It's still going to require our design and their review prior to construction. It's not just going to happen tomorrow because somebody's bored. It has to go through the proper channels, and all the grading, drainage, safe maneuvering, all that's going to be reviewed by DPW, and they have to follow the city's stormwater ordinances and various other ordinances.
Yeah, I mean, it's a detail that should be not forgotten about, because I know when you start designing these things, sometimes that stuff gets forgotten about, and then you have to improvise. And when you improvise, you may have a situation that could create additional problems.
Well, that's one of the conditions. We always make a condition that the DPW has to say on any widening or changes of the roads. So they have a set of criteria. So that opens them up to all of the criteria, like I said, of water, of drainage, of flows, okay? So they would look at that, and then believe me, because the DPW is going to deal with this in the future, they're not going to, when they get an opportunity to look at something to correct it, they're gonna make sure it's done right, okay? So I have confidence in the DPW and what they've done in the past. And it's not like what's on the drawing that is the final thing, because we always leave that as a condition that is under the auspices of the DPW for the final design and improvement. So we don't approve the final design. Okay, we approve the concept and where it is. The final design, anything on the roadway is the DPW. Do you have any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Ed Himlin, 72 Lincoln Drive. The city of Leominster has the responsibility and the authority for protecting the waters of the Commonwealth.
That is correct.
How will the planning board prevent harm to Lake Samoset? It's my question.
There's a couple of methods. Number one, the Conservation Commission is your number one chief, okay, watcher, okay, and you're very familiar with them, and I rely on the Conservation Commission heavily on that type of stuff, okay. We passed a whole water quality standard back 4 or 5 years ago, which was based on a brand new water quality standard developed from the state. So all of those new water quality standards are in place, so that the detention ponds, retention ponds, the flows are all calculated, and they are calculated towards maintaining the protection of Samoset. I believe we addressed that, and I know the conservation. I personally had a discussion with conservation concerned that they put emphasis on making sure that Lake Samoset and the flows from this area would not impact it or impact Lake Samoset, and that's what their goal is. Now, we make goals. We say we design to a 50-year floodplain or a storm or 100-year in certain areas, and but who knows what's going to happen in 20 years or 30 years. They may go one way or may go the other. I don't know that today. All we can do is develop to the best standards that we have today, and that's what we're shooting for.
Can Lake Samoset Association come back to the planning board if problems arise?
No. They cannot, okay? We do it to the best of our ability to the engineers and to the water quality. If we meet the water quality standards and that are called for, and the engineer meets the water quality standards, and again, that's determined by the engineers at the DPW, they look at those standards, they have to be stamped by a professional engineer that they're covered. That's how it's taken care of, okay? If something happens in the future, no, Lake Samoset cannot come back to the planning board, okay?
Who do we go to?
Yeah, go talk to the mayor. I don't know. I don't have an answer there. I do not have an answer.
There's more than one department in the city of Leominster. So we're the planning board. We're here to determine whether or not that meets the subdivision regulations. The Conservation Commission has its own jurisdiction. The Zoning Board of Appeals has its own jurisdiction. And so, I mean, that's the reason there's a Conservation Commission. We're here to determine whether or not they meet the subdivision regulations under the City of Leominster's ordinance.
And if they meet those, we can't go beyond that.
I appreciate all of your good review. I don't want to get into a debate. You understand my question?
No, I understand the question. And I wish I had a crystal ball and I could look into the future. I love Lake Samoset. I know a lot of people that live around there. It's a beautiful area. I think it's one of the jewels of the city, and it should be protected. We'll do what we can. That's our goal.
I'd like to add to what Ed was saying. I lived on Union Street next to Tuttle's Pond. Brought my kids up there. They were catching all kinds of fish in that pond, catfish, whatever. I saw fish come from Samoset up into that pond. That pond's a jelly bowl right now. What did the Conservation Commission do there? I mean, it was a quality pond, and what's happening is they're getting runoff from the Canard area, green lawn, green pond. They put fertilizer on it, you get a jelly bowl. That pond is a disgrace. If we have a development like that coming up and we have the same kind of runoff, Lake Samoset's going to turn into the same type of thing. What's the commission going to do at that point?
I don't know. Yeah,
right. So you can't just wait and have it happen. You got to take and look at what has happened on other bodies of water.
That's why we have new water quality standards, because of things that have happened in the past in those ponds. And that's why the water quality standards in the last 4 or 5 years have been strengthened considerably, okay? Now, what they did, is that sufficient to stop that from happening? I don't know. But an effort was made with the city and the state to come up with new water quality standards. Right. And the goal was to eliminate that type of thing.
So in order to eliminate something like that, I mean, you would not know what the change is until it happens. So as people develop, if you don't take and look at the quality of the water as it stands today and monitor it, you're not gonna know the change until it happens. So I kind of propose that if you're gonna put in a development, that the homeowners or the association of that development should also monitor the water of Samoset to make sure that it doesn't degrade as well.
I can't, that's, I hate to say it, the water of the Samoset is the responsibility of the city. I'm not gonna have a homeowners association outside of the city get involved with monitoring outside, okay? So therefore, it's the best we can do. We've increased the size of detention and retention ponds. We've changed the types of ripraps and how they drain off. We've increased the drainage cycles on how long it takes for it to. We've increased the amount of percolation, okay? So there's more of the soil, water goes through the soils, okay, before it goes out into the, so all of those things have been done in the new water quality standards. I don't know what else could be done.
But we don't get guaranteed results from.
I don't get a guarantee that I'm gonna be here tomorrow.
Did you go before the Conservation Commission?
Yes, we have received an order of conditions for the project from the Conservation Commission. And they did review the operation and maintenance requirements. They reviewed the drainage calculations, the state reviewed the drainage calculations, the city reviewed the state or the drainage calculations. It's safe to say that those requirements have been met in full.
Okay.
Relative to off-site issues from other properties, I cannot just fix the world.
So once you get your regulations and you pass all your stuff, does it stop there, or do they continue to monitor those pools as you know, ages?
We can't evaluate a off-site location.
No, I'm talking about just the sites, the provisions that you put on that project.
This operation.
Well, what we do is we put provisions in the homeowners association. They have had to come to us with a management plan, okay? And we require them a bond to make sure that they manage it properly, that they maintain those detention retention ponds, okay? That's how we control them. That's what we say, hey, it's not just something, here it is. There is a requirement that there is a bond. The specific amount of money tied into the cost of the project. It has to be bonded. It has to be a board of directors. There has to be an association. That's all been spelled out in prior meetings, okay? So all of that's been done. We've tried to do, it's not just that it's willy-nilly, it's been left up to the homeowner. No, it's a homeowners association that's gonna do that. So we've tried to cover all the bases. Is that there is a management plan and there is a budget to maintain, and if the detention ponds are maintained and do that, they will do their job, okay? Outside of that, coming in with a 100-year storm and something changing, we can't address that. We're gonna address it to a point. I'd like to move on. Okay. Do I have any other questions?
Dorothy Rulo.
Yes, Dorothy.
They're very much involved with their neighborhood, and this is a big impact for them. One of the minor things that you could consider, and I think it's important because it's historical, we don't have many ash trees left, and I think it's a historical tree. I think it's something that makes a difference for a neighborhood to have something that they can connect with. I'd like to say that.
Okay.
Them as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Okay, do I have anyone else? Board members, do I have any questions or comments? What you wish to do?
We're ready to close the hearing.
If you just want to make that motion.
Okay, I move to close the hearing.
A motion by Paul, second, made and seconded by Patrick to close the hearing. Any further discussion? No, that's on the public hearing, then I got it. No, that's only on the public hearing. That's all we have open as a public hearing. So we have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have any further discussion? Seconded by Patrick. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to our regular meeting. Okay, and call to order, please.
Patrick Perla.
Here.
Fred Fredericks.
Here.
Paul Weiser. Salvatore Ciccone. Excused. John Souza.
Yes.
Carol Vittorioso.
Here.
Thomas Carrigan.
Here.
Okay, minutes of previous meetings, October 7th.
Make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes for October 7th. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Plans submitted. We don't have any new plans. Gee, that's new. Old business, continue the definitive subdivision for approved Meadowlands at Willard Street, along the northeast side of Willard Street, including number 671 Willard Street. What is your...
If I may start.
You may.
At the site walk, many months ago at this point, we heard a couple of very pressing primary concerns. First of which was that the road, as first proposed, was directly coming into the headlights would have been coming right into the Bergwinkle's residence. So that was clearly something that probably needed to be addressed, which it was. The second and most pressing thing was the safety and the sight lines on that road in that particular area. Obviously, the tree was not helping in that regard, given that it sits literally in the road. So, to me, the widening of the road for that 300-foot area gives you a great sideline coming into where the proposed project is, and then gives you some time to navigate coming from the other direction as you get by Crabtree. So, to me, the widening of the road is a game changer because the entire time people were concerned about the fact that there was going to be more traffic in an area where that pinch point was. And having been there and driven by there many times since the site walk, to me it seems like a world of difference for everybody once that gets widened and people can navigate past each other without having to slow down or come to a complete stop, especially when there's a bus or another large vehicle going down the street. So I just want to put that on the record that those were the concerns I heard, and I think this does address those concerns.
I'll take the other side this time. So I agree with Patrick's first priority, which was to deal with the road. I remain disappointed that we have not resolved that, and we still have a road that's not in a good place. But be that as it may, we are where we are. This idea of widening the road and moving trees only came up because the developer was looking for ways to accommodate what the abutters wanted. And not a single abutter spoke and said, we want to take down a tree and widen the road. And thus, I think we should defer to the wishes of the abutters. They're not happy that they're going to end up with a project that they don't love. We should do as much as we can to try and accommodate their wishes. That's clearly what they wanted, and so I would say that's where I would live.
Okay.
Well, the problem with that is then it's going to be tighter, that road. That's fine.
I think that tree's coming down one way or the other at some point in the not-too-distant future. That road will be improved at some point in time from the beginning to the end, and that tree's going to be part of that improvement.
That's fine, man.
The tree's been hit a number of times.
Yeah.
Actually, I went on my own tried to hit that tree with a car on top. So it is right next to the road. It is a beautiful, tree, but it's right on the road and it's in the right of way. And if you drive on Leominster, there aren't any trees that are that close to the road.
There are the many 18-foot roads that curve.
Right. And,
much bigger problems.
Be that as it may, Willard Street's not a great road. It will be a 300-foot section that isn't improved. It won't be improved up by the stone wall, but the road's going to navigate its way with lines, and I don't believe it's going to run anybody into the wall. But I think widening it does help the situation.
Okay. Do Anybody have any other comments?
There are any waivers? Chris, there are any waivers?
Yes.
Yeah, there are a number of waivers, we'll have to address them.
There's an email from Bill Hannigan when he outlines all of the waivers. They came today.
I had it here. Here it is. This one here. Okay, I'll read the different ones. Okay, we'll have to vote on these individually. The waivers are outlined in the submittal document for the projected as, okay, section 9M. Bank plantings in the cul-de-sac. A waiver is requested to allow for construction of cul-de-sac without a central planted area. This is a discussion. Do we want to have a central planted area? And some people say they like them, some people don't like them. It's a matter of choice. This waiver would make it just one big open area. I've seen it in some areas as, where is it, Rosewood. They have a big Daisy Drive. Kids play basketball out there all the time. It's beautiful open. They have another area on Bridle Cross where they have plantings and they take care of it. And some of the kids they play in the trees that are in the center there. So I don't have I've seen both, where they've worked and where they don't work. The DPW doesn't particularly like them because they're difficult to plow around. So,
Better off without.
yeah, so,
I have one in front of my house and I'm the only one that thinks so.
yeah, I know. So,
I'd rather pave it, but no one would rather.
okay, so that's the first one. Section, street width. The waiver request will allow for all the roadway widths within the subdivision to be 28 feet wide, less than the required 38-foot width per subdivision regulations. Exception to this would be approximately the first 200 feet of Road A from Willard Street. But he doesn't tell me what that is. What is the width on that first 200 feet?
34 feet.
That is 34 feet, okay. Section 9R4, streets. A waiver is requested to allow a single point egress to the site for a subdivision greater than 12 lots. During the preliminary subdivision plan approval process, it was agreed that the second means of egress for emergency vehicles would be provided via a gravel-based access drive that would be connected to Willard Street, to Road B, okay? Now, we could add to that on the waivers that the homeowners association will be required to plow it. Well, that's up to them. We can put it on the waiver, and if they don't do it, it's their responsibility. Okay?
It's an emergency road.
Emergency road.
No one's gonna plow.
But we should put that in.
Yeah.
Okay?
We can put it in there. Nobody's gonna plow. Especially there's a gate on either end.
Because they're not gonna have a key to it.
Okay?
What the association?
So, no, the association might. They may want the safety of that. Subdivision layout. The layout of the site has been taken into account various considerations to meet offset requirements from nearby roadway systems. Additionally, the project provides a secondary means of access through an emergency access drive as shown on the plans. All the lots meet the frontage and area requirements and provide sufficient space for the construction of a typical residential dwelling. Okay? Sidewalks. As discussed, there are two areas on the regulations that show sidewalk dimensions. Although we believe the requirement in this particular case provides for 4 feet width, we will yield to requirement of the board on this matter. This is one that we believe it should be 5 feet, and that's going to require a change to our subdivision, but we want to go to make it 5. I found that the 4 foot just doesn't work. So that in that case, it's the width. The sidewalk width would be 5 feet. Okay. Public park. As discussed, a park area is not proposed for this project. That's an option in the subdivision regulations. In a bigger subdivision, we've required it and we've looked for it. This size, we haven't, and it is not proposed, so that would be a waiver. But, not a public park, but we could, and it says same area, we could make a suggestion that in the developer, that they provide an area and a shelter for a school, okay, and that would be a choice. So that's a discussion we could make, that it came up. Because there is room at the end of the road, and we could require them to build a small shelter so the kids could stand in the shelter. What's your pleasure?
I think we should just get a bubble for every kid. Just once and for all. Make sure they're all set.
Leave it alone, okay, forget it, we'll move on. Maintenance, the final maintenance documents have been provided to the board prior to the last meeting. This includes associated costs for proposed maintenance items in the section of who would ultimately be responsible for these items until the acceptance of the public way. As noted, the portions of the drainage system and the sewer force main will be incorporated into a homeowners association for long-term maintenance. The homeowners association documentation for the formation and the responsibilities has also been reviewed by the city solicitor and as part of this process. The plans of October 1st, 2019 are the most up-to-date set of plans and should be referenced in the discussion, along with the road widening plan as dated October 11th, 2019. Prior to endorsement, the road widening will be incorporated into the final set of plans. This should be noted as a condition of approval, so the widening plan becomes part of the recorded record set. So let's discuss the widening. Do we want to widen it? Do we want to leave the tree? Do we want to cut the tree down? What you wish. We've discussed it. Okay.
I mean, it's unfortunate that the tree is in the middle of the road. Had it been in somebody's backyard, it would be nice.
It's right on. It's in the road.
And but for this development,
given the right of way, it's actually
had a conversation that we shouldn't penalize the homeowners because they're getting a development across.
Yeah.
No, but we also should make it safer too.
Okay.
For the people.
I completely appreciate them liking their tree. I mean, I don't. It's not. I'm not trying to minimize it at all.
Okay. Okay, let's take the waivers as, we'll take a vote on the, do we have anything else we believe to have to want to add to the waivers? We usually add all department head comments.
They're going to take snow plowing for the emergency access.
Right. Yep.
Let's make sure we have maybe just the waivers. This is the 20-foot buffer for the property.
Right.
East of the property.
That is on the plan.
It's on the plans.
So there's no waivers on that.
Very good.
Okay.
What about the crosswalk?
Is that on the plan?
At this point, no.
What's that?
At this point, no, it is not.
Doesn't
Okay.
need to be.
It doesn't really need to be, unfortunately, per the ordinance.
Do we want?
Where would you put the crosswalk?
If you remember the curve.
To the sidewalk off of Crabtree?
Yeah, you would essentially have a crosswalk from the sidewalk that comes off of our subdivision onto
So
Willard
the bus
Street.
could come the other way.
Oh, okay.
Probably should be one there though. Connect the two sidewalks.
Yeah.
I would.
Okay.
Give everybody a moment of pause too, once they get used to it being there. Maybe
I want to put that crosswalk there. Okay, on the first one, on the cul-de-sac, all in favor of removing the the plantings in the center of the cul-de-sac, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. No plantings. Street width, okay. That's the 28 feet less the 34 feet. That's on the plan today.
Except for the 200 feet.
Except for the 200 feet is 34 feet, so. Okay, so the first on that width, on the width of the roads, waiver, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries.
No, I said,
Okay, streets. If waiver is required to allow a single point of access site subdivision greater than 12 lots. And what I did was add to that gives you the emergency road, and add plowing with the responsibility of the homeowners association. Any discussion on that?
not for waivers, just special.
Here, no. Vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No,
Motion carries. Layout, there's no waiver on the layout, is there? No.
There's only 3.
Sidewalks. Sidewalk is the waiver, there's no waiver, the sidewalk should be 5 feet. Yeah, they will be 5 feet. Okay, all in favor of that? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
no,
Motion carries. And discuss the park area, park is not required.
We have to vote on that.
Huh?
Road waivers, right?
That's a waiver to not to have the park.
That's a waiver?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
All right, let's vote.
okay. All in favor of removing the park requirement?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. The maintenance documents, that's not a waiver, that was a requirement, and they abided by that. And then the last part is the widening of the road. Okay? Do we want to accept the plan to widen the road to accommodate the latest change, or to keep it as originally proposed with the, no, I have to make it into the affirmative. Do we want to accept a proposed change to widen the road? Period. As proposed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
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 Motion fails. Okay, that means that the road width stays the same. Willard
No,
Street.
no, it doesn't.
It's 3 to 2.
It's 4. 1, 2,
I'm a
oh,
no.
There's the 3.
you're with me. 1, 2, 3.
3 2.
3 to 2.
What do you vote?
He doesn't vote.
They don't vote.
The 3 to 2 is
No, the motion is in affirmative, yeah, 3 to 2. It passes, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, it
I
passes.
didn't know that.
Sorry.
And
It
then you need a
passes.
supermajority.
Sorry about that, it's not a,
Not for waivers.
not for waivers, I was thinking, that's what I was thinking, supermajority,
Okay.
okay? So that takes care of it. I think with that, the final motion would be in order to accept the plan, okay, as, yes, it needs a supermajority.
Why? It's a site plan. Why
It's
does
a
it need
subdivision.
It's a subdivision. It doesn't need a supermajority.
It doesn't, no.
I mean, not a
The
site.
special permit requires that, a subdivision does not.
Okay, very good.
So it just needs a majority.
Okay. And you're gonna get your signature.
And it's out of,
No, this is a
it's out
public
of
hearing.
5.
If you look at my memo,
Majority out of 5, right?
It's a public hearing, but it's not
Okay,
a
it's
special.
just a site plan, not a, okay,
Okay, let's go.
site plan, okay.
it's a subdivision.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of the subdivision for Maple Lands at Willard Street? Okay, with the voted waivers. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
You got 3 to 2. Passes. Okay.
Department comments and.
Yes.
So is one of,
The widening.
do we have the condition that, prior to endorsement, the applicant must address all provisions of section 11 maintenance? That was in memo.
It's in your memo, right?
Yeah, that's in the memo. That was all covered in the,
All the
Wait,
department.
Department heads.
Okay, you're covered in it.
all the
Okay.
department heads, yeah.
Thank you for pointing
391 Pleasant Street, site plan approval. Any discussion on that?
The majority vote of the board is 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
We got that right.
We got 3 out
Well,
of 5.
but there was only, but John can't vote, and then Sal's not here.
Okay, so
So it's
I'm looking at
3 out
the
of 5.
planning board guidelines, and it says a majority vote for definitive subdivision is 4 out of 7.
Yeah, but, so John can't vote,
Yeah.
Sal's not here. Even with the 5 of us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's a quorum.
Okay.
So then among the 5 of us, we vote, and it's majority vote.
Okay.
4 out of 7 is just a majority. 4 out of 7 is just a majority, too.
If all 7 of the president.
I mean, I hate to cut the tree, but
I know, but
it's not that spot.
Okay.
it's a shame.
All right,
Let's move on. 391 Pleasant Street,
He said it was going to be quick.
for site plan approval. Any additions, deletions?
I think we should.
Excellent plan.
Yeah, good
I
plan.
think you had some experience in that.
I make a,
Usually
under
on the
the,
other end of.
We have a number of waivers we gotta cover.
oh yeah, here's 5.
Where are
This
they?
is, what does this resident say?
Because it's on the ground,
Here we go.
it's more expensive. Fortunately, I can do it myself.
Okay, the following
Make a motion
waivers.
to
oh, you
waive
got
the
that?
access driveway.
I second that.
Motion made and seconded to waive the access driveway. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Make a motion to waive the liability insurance,
Second.
his homeowners.
Motion made and seconded to waive the liability insurance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
I waive the, his compliance to,
No issue.
compliance to the noise levels.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded on noise. Any discussion? Nope. Here none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Going in plan.
I make a motion to waive the maintenance plan.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded to waive the maintenance plan. Any discussion on that? Here none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And unauthorized access.
I make a motion to
Waive the fence.
waive the, access fence.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to waive the access, the security fence. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the site plan application for his solar array.
Second for that.
All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Approved, say no.
Are you a Frenchman?
Pirates.
I just want to throw a curveball to him.
And I make a motion to approve the issuance of the site plan for the use.
Second.
Special permit for
That
use
says the special permit, I don't know why I keep thinking.
with previous conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Good luck.
Good luck to you, sir.
Good luck.
Are we
You're done.
You're all set.
You're all done. Start building. Okay. I may talk to you because we're gonna have to modify some regulations. So I'd like to,
I was gonna mention that to Elizabeth. She pointed that out too. That there's
we want to make a change for homeowners because I don't have a. But when we did it, we weren't really thinking there was going to be that much call for homeowners. But I have a similar situation to you where I got a 90-foot tree and it covers 87% of my house. So.
Yeah, exactly. And,
No communications.
Okay.
thank you.
6.1.
275 Lancaster Road, site plan, condition approval, follow a peer review for traffic updates.
Okay, so, me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I made some progress with this. I was able to get a hold of the company, New England Development. I spoke with a woman named Penny. I'm going to say her last name starts with a T. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name. But she's going to put me in touch with the development team prior to Thanksgiving. And they said they had a lot of staff changes. So they have someone that just came in that's inheriting this. But
Okay.
they will be in touch with me
Thank you.
before the holiday.
Beautiful. 6.2, Hospital Road Traffic Study Update.
Yep, there's a memo in front of you from Jamie Rowe regarding this.
Okay?
Did you have that?
I don't see it.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, good, I didn't lose it.
All right, we had a lot of things come out.
Okay, could you read it to us or give us the,
Yeah,
Or just the essence of it?
it's in my phone, I have it. Hold on.
You don't need to read a word.
It came at the end of the day, but I got it. So he says that he put a call in to the traffic engineer to ask for a status report, and he expects a call back tomorrow.
okay,
So he's moving it along.
we'll just continue that. Okay. Summit Estate subdivision, Liggett Hill, discussion modification. This was come in with a new set of drawings to us.
Yeah, I got an email on that too from Jamie Rowe. So would you like me to read it or summarize it?
Go ahead, summarize it.
It says that, according to Mr. Rowe, Whitman and Bingham's going to design stormwater improvements for the subdivision, and they're going to submit them to DPW for review, and then they will submit this to planning board for approval as a minor change without a public hearing is what they're requesting. The goal is to meet the current stormwater regulations, and by adding water quality units and 4 bays to the detention basin, the project will meet the current stormwater regulations.
That's okay. I think we want to take a hard look at the drawings as they exist today. One of the things that I did notice, just briefly looking at the drawings, were that the lot sizes are based on the old ordinances, and which are only 20,000, and we require 21 something, 21.8, I think. So our lot sizes are larger than what's on that plan that we require today. Now, do we grandfather it the way it is? Do we accept it as minor?
It was approved then.
Yeah, it was all approved originally. It's 20, it's 21 now. It's not a big deal, but I just wanted to bring it up. So what we're gonna have to do, once they finally come back to us and we get a drawing, then we gotta determine that it's a minor modification. Okay, once we determine it's a minor modification, then it doesn't require a hearing. Okay, but until we get the drawings and we can look at that, we can't.
Sounds good.
But I wanted to bring you guys up to date at what is transpiring there. Okay. Planning director's report.
I gave you a whole bunch of them for each of them.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes. Good reports, good information. Be concise, and we're all happy.
Hey, Tom, you're up.
Wait, 8 more.
On a matter of business, quickly, I'm not going to be here next meeting. I'll be in the happiest place on earth.
Nice.
Okay, to you?
Quite a juxtaposition. Right.
Okay.
Do we want to look at January schedule yet?
Carol's looking up something here, and I'm not sure I want to close the meeting before she...
No.
Motion adjourned.
Second. Do you have public comment? Can I just make a comment?
I'll allow it. I normally...
Okay.
I will.
Just a technical question on the votes, in terms of who's allowed to vote and how many meetings they've missed.
I'm the only one that's not allowed to vote.
Based on, how does that work? I'm just trying to understand.
If you miss one meeting,
Yep.
okay, and if you, of that thing,
Yep.
if you miss one meeting, and it's on TV,
Yep,
if we go and watch it on TV,
yep,
then we fill out a form,
yep,
okay, and then we can vote.
okay,
If you miss 2 meetings,
yep,
you can't vote.
okay.
So we've been very cautious that everybody either only missed 1 meeting and filled out the form to say that they watched it on
And if
TV.
you miss 2 meetings, then you can't vote at all with what you've done.
You can't vote, but you can, we got approval, I can participate.
Okay.
We had a letter from KP Law that I read at the very beginning of the meeting.
Yes, I heard that.
Okay, it said that I could participate.
Could I just refer back to 2 sets of minutes, because it seems that according to the minutes, Tom's missed 2 meetings. So I just wanted,
2 meetings of this.
Of the public hearing.
Of the
If it was continued and not heard, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can I just- I'm
There
sorry.
were some meetings we had that I had to open it, okay?
It wasn't opened.
But it wasn't open, but I had to, because it was on the agenda, and we knew that there was no action. That's why I only took written comments. There is no information. So as far as I know, he's only missed one. Because we watched that.
It was the June 3rd, and it was March 4th, where they actually both were heard.
Okay, there were 10 meetings.
And those are your minutes. There's March, and he is absent. And here's June. I'm not sure looks like there's minutes, and there's minutes, and he is absent. So, in my estimation, I think that he can't vote either, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
I have to defer to my director, I don't. As
Yeah,
far
we have
as
the
I know.
minutes. It does say that in the minutes. We're looking at,
On this one, it says for June 3rd that he received a continuance for Willard Radio.
Is there?
If it was just a continuance, and there's.
It was just a continuance.
there's no
Minutes, but no
discussion.
continuance on it?
There was no action
Okay,
taken.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
discussion.
I'm pretty sure I only missed one.
Thank you.
Honestly.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to, so I was name.
Yeah, because that's what we do. If we know that we don't have the vote, we continue it. It doesn't make any difference. So that's why, but the meeting is not open.
Thank you.
Tom, you're up.
Okay.
Motion
Oh, yeah, go ahead, motion to
to adjourn.
But I gotta put in my ad for breakfast for the bands. The pictures are up there. It's, this coming on the 24th. Bacon, eggs, home fries, pancakes, French toast, bagels, and all kinds of other. You can't eat everything that we have. It's $8, and Rotary members have tickets. You can buy tickets at the door, and young children are free. So come, have a good time. It's a great thing for the band.
Sounds good.
I already adjourned.
You've already adjourned.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All say no. Motion carries.